Hello and welcome to this week's episode of Uncorked with Funny Wine Girl. This is Funny Wine Girl, aka Ginny Luby. And March is Women's History Month, although I like to say we don't need 1 month because we've got every damn day. Love to elevate women on this podcast and support in any way I can. So, and again, when I tell you guys that or gals that, I'm not saying that just to go look at me. I'm just saying we all need to be lifting one another up. So, I also like to say at the beginning of my podcast, as you know, if you listen, you're like, oh, here she goes again. But I like to give a little description of how I know my guest, how I came to know the person, because I think it's so important that we are open, that we are curious, that we put ourselves out there, get involved in different things. And I know some people are more shy than others, even if you're online and connecting, just to learn more, get to know people and see how you can help them. And eventually, it's mutual. You help one another come together for a certain cause that you both enjoy. So my guest this week came from me performing comedy out recently at the Everhart Museum, and a woman came up to me, and she was a groupie. No, I'm just kidding. She came up to me, and she's like begging me to sign something. No, I was talking about my podcast, and she's like, "Oh, my daughter does blah blah blah, and you should talk to her." And I'm like, "Okay, yeah, have her reach out." And I'll admit, not because of anything, it was just the end of the day, and like I caught parts of what she was saying, and then I noticed this person on Instagram reaching out, and I'm like, oh, yeah, that was her mom. So, Natalie Jurosky, who started Scranton Girls Rock, is my guest today. And that came to be because of her mom telling me about her, proud mom, after my comedy show. So, welcome, Natalie.
Thank you so much. I was just sitting here the whole time thinking she's gonna have me talk eventually, and I could just sit here and listen, like your voice, your podcast, your thoughts. I'm like, yeah, what's in today's podcast? Like, oh, it's me.
Oh, wait, you want to talk to
I
me?
was getting so immersed in that. Yeah, you have a gift, and that is precisely what my mom said. And she said, you have to reach out to the funny wine girl. And I did so, and I'm so happy that I did because now we're here and
Yeah.
talking about how Scranton Girls Rock. I will take
Yes.
the credit for starting it, but I am not the first girl to rock in Scranton, and I will most certainly not be the last. So,
Amen to that. And I do want to say along those lines, because I talked about this a couple weeks ago. I know that like we talk about social media and there is tons of shady crap and stuff, but at the same time, it can be also about really cool connections. So, I mean, you reached out, and I'm someone that I am so open to that. Like, unless it's someone that's like, hey, would you like to be an influencer for our pet clothing line? It's like, no, that's crap. But like this kind of
you would
stuff,
look
it's like,
fantastic with our ferrets around your neck.
yeah, I'll have to get some. I'll get a stuffed ferret. But I mean, this kind of stuff, it's great because you're okay, you're from Scranton, you're in Florida right now. So we have this great opportunity to connect online. But before we get into Scranton Girls Rock, first I want to ask you, I want to talk about you, but I want to ask too, did it surprise you that your mom, like, is that something your mom would do? Like, did you expect your mom to be like, hey, you got to get to know my daughter?
Yes. That's my mom, and that's me. We are a dynamic duo, and I'm okay with that. Like, I have a really awesome mom, and I know that not everybody does. And if you don't have an awesome mom, like, I can guarantee you that, like, I'm appreciating the one that I do have. I feel when I speak to people who aren't so lucky, they're like, just appreciate her. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like, if there's another way, I will. Just let me know.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I love that because I love my mom too. And like we didn't actually, it's funny, different generation. My mom came from a harder generation, so whatever, not the most emotive, like affectionate, but we became friends when I came home from college. Like it's not that we didn't have a good relationship, it was just an okay relationship, but we became friends when I came home from college. And like so now it's like martini lunches, well, a little bit less. She's turning 80, but she, we used to do that maybe 15, 20 years ago, take her to New York City. Like, so I love having a mom that I can be friends with. So that's kudos to your mom and to you for supporting one another. I think that's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit. So you're in Florida now, you're in Orlando, but you're from Scranton. Before we get into Scranton Girls Rock, tell me a little bit about you and your art and then what led you to Scranton Girls Rock.
Well, I was just growing up in Scranton and I started getting into things that as I got older as a woman were maybe said like, "Hey, you shouldn't be doing that," or like, "Why do you want to do that?" Like whether or not it's met with malice or just like a very lighthearted resistance, you feel that because it's not something that's like, "Yes, keep going." And I really love validation, I'm finding out at 35. So when you know what works for you, you could seek that out better. I came down to Orlando for a little more elbow room to there's a lot behind that, and it's basically just a very long history of having a bunch of men around me. I had the best of the best as my main band, which was Grace's Downfall. The area, they have Ken Norton, Mark Yanish. They'll be fine if I say their names, but they deserve a shout out because there's so many guys out there. Out of all of them, I got the ones that wanted to protect me, right? So I had a great upbringing, and then I moved to Orlando, and people were like, they didn't know it was, they didn't know who I was. Excuse me. They were just like treating me like a girl, and I didn't even know what that meant yet because my mom is so legit. She's like 70, she's having a birthday, and it's a thing. And so I'm gonna say it. She's 70 going on like her third 30. Like she's lived at least like 18 lives. She has so much knowledge in her head. So that's my image of a woman. And so when you tell me like girls don't do this, girls don't do that, I'm like, who the heck taught you about girls? And not knowing, being young and impressionable, trying to figure out who I was myself, I just started gravitating more towards these women who were having similar struggles. Like, I just want to play music. I want to be creative. I don't want to go on some weird subliminal situationship where, like, we can't communicate or you don't know if you have friends to go with you. What are the safety precautions? And I found out that if I just went and hung out with women, I could A, learn how to be one myself, use the equipment I was given, which is a fascinating journey when you're like 30 and you're like, oh, I guess I should check out what this is about. It like women are beautiful. So now I'm like, I'm infatuated. I want to know everything about how we do, what we do, why we do. And there was this little community called Orlando Girls Rock. Well, it's not even little, it's huge. It's all of Orlando because when I got down here, there's just women playing instruments everywhere. There's like an army of them and they just rise when the occasion calls for it. And they're so powerful and amazing. And anyway, they started Orlando Girls Rock. Was started by some local female musicians, and they're also teachers. So they do this really cool camp, and I just started volunteering. I have this little photo booth that I would bring. I used to be a camp counselor, a birthday clown, so this was like right up my alley to just sit and chill. And I thought, wow, I really wish I had this in Pennsylvania. And after volunteering for about 3 or 4 years with them, it was coming up on 10 years being away from home. And I do like visiting during the warm months. And I just wanted to bring something up there that I felt was really helpful down here. Also, Orlando Girls Rock is sort of taking this, there's St. Pete, and I don't know if that's the same as Tampa. I don't want to misspeak, and it might be Miami, but there's like three girls' rocks in Florida that have substantial numbers. And so it seems like sort of like a circuit is forming. And in Pennsylvania, we have Girls Rock Philly and there's Girls Rock Lehigh Valley. So I have a very big picture and I guess if there was one thing that I wanted people to know, it's that it's not about like 1 year doing a camp for me. It's like I want to see this grow. I want to see little girls go to this camp. I want to see them age in the camp and then become counselors themselves, take it over, and just start this safe space where you can explore yourself without having to fight through like it's not even a bad thing, like just energy. There's such a difference between an environment where you are safe in and then an environment that helps you get better and thrive without traumatizing you. And that's
Mm.
That's what I'm trying to make is like, hey, we can make mistakes. We can get up on stage. Um, and that is what we're working towards. It's new. It's the first year, but if I could say anything, it's like I'm that horse you want to bet on for doing this 'cause I'm not doing anything else. I just want to wake up and make this happen. And somewhere in my 70s, I'd like a foster home somewhere, but I'm telling you, like I'm not getting married. My partner Matt is super supportive and he's into music too, and we're already making I love the connections I'm rekindling up in that area.
Mm-hmm.
Do
Let
you want to go to
me
the Girls Rock camp? Go ahead.
I was gonna say, let me stop you just for a second before we get too far ahead. So Scranton Girls Rock is new, and you said this is the first year that you'll be doing the summer camp, and we'll get to that. And there's a fundraiser coming up. We'll get to that. But before we get too far ahead, Scranton Girls Rock, or I mean, excuse me, Girls Rock. So you mentioned the three down there in Florida. It's like a national. So is it all over the country? And it's like a nonprofit organization for girls 7 to 17. Is that right? I just want to get some of the specifics.
Sure. No, I love it. Girls Rock Camp Association is a nonprofit 501c3 certified all over the world queen bee of all of these girls rock camps. There are individual girls rock camps that may have the girl rock name in it. It's not required because of how inclusive we like to be. If you're just into feminine energy and our mission and appreciating that journey, then come on and hang out. Um, but I like girls to know that it's okay to say that girls rock. So I did stick with the Scranton Girls Rock. I know Philly Girls Rock and Lehigh Valley Girls Rock. It's a queen bee sort of thing with the GRCA, and then there's little minions of nonprofits. They are individualized. So like
Okay.
we are our own business entity, our nonprofit. We are going to make some numbers and data and show people like specifically how much Scranton Girls rock, not just with music, but with art, with embracing other women. Like I would love for us all to just stick together.
I think that's awesome. So this we'll get to you're going to have a fundraiser in Scranton coming up, and then the camp itself will be in the summer. And when we talked a couple weeks ago. We just kind of met, like we had talked through Instagram, and then you and I just had a quick conversation. And I want to follow up something that you said, because and obviously, so someone, I shouldn't say obviously, let me remove that. I don't know what's obvious and what the fuck isn't. But let's say someone, like whatever, someone
Yeah.
listening might be like, oh, well, there's camps all over and there's, music teachers, blah, blah, blah. So if someone listening, like, okay, I have a daughter and she's taking violin lessons or she's taking whatever lessons, what is the distinguishing thing about this that's different? Like, okay, yeah, there's been summer camps, there's been music teachers. What makes this different?
I have been to every single music camp in possibility to have had in that area when I was there, and they are all very educational. They are great, and you're going to learn your music theory, you're going to learn proper form, and you're going to learn a very militant style of playing together. And that is one way to do it. I would say that our camp would be a great complement to show the fun side of your instrument because we do want people to practice. We want people to care about music theory. But I feel that when I was going to those camps, the fun was supposed to be had, like the campers had to figure it out. Go play Jenga or something. This is just a whole week of fun, and you're expressing yourself through art. You're not getting critiqued on how you're expressing yourself.
Excellent. Yeah, awesome. Okay, and there's one other thing you said that I want to follow up on, and this is not meant to be a gotcha thing, but I hope you don't mind me bringing it up. You
Do it.
said something to the effect of like we don't need a whole bunch more or whatever of Taylor Swift's, right? You said something to that effect, and I just kept that in my head
Here she
only.
comes.
No. And believe me, I'm not like I'm a Swiftie with a bunch of bracelets or anything.
Yeah.
But no. The thing about that, and this is not this because I want to have this conversation. So I'm curious what I think I know what you meant, but I just want to explore that a little bit because what I think about music is personal to I think a big degree, right? So for me, and I'll share this one, I know I'm all over the place, but it's just, I get excited because no one should define for you what art is or what music is, right? So that's what I want to get to. I remember years ago, maybe 15 years ago, hanging out with some of my friends from improv, and this poor bastard, I've pummeled him so many times about this. He played drums or whatever, and there was another guy there that plays, and I mentioned how I like Coldplay, and they laughed at me and were like, "That's not real music" or whatever. And I remember, I didn't believe me. I didn't go like burrow myself underground like I can't ever show my face, like no, but I was kind of like, oh, like not embarrassed, but like, oh. And now I, 53 finally, I'm just like, I don't really give a shit if they think it's music or not, because a lot of their songs make me feel really good. Like even like EDM, like dance music, it makes me feel happy. So why would I ever give a shit what anyone thinks of that? So with that context, I just want to say, I'm sure there are a lot of people that think there's like this formula and you don't want more of that. But would you agree that at least like one thing I would say about her is that she, as a businesswoman, I think is me watching as an older woman, she did have to like create her own songs and her like she wasn't always rich, right? So she was independent and kind of made herself. So
Taylor Swift was born 2 days before me in West Reading, Pennsylvania. And well, we both ended up in different places, right? I would say if I can brag, just hope Taylor doesn't mind, I'm a little weirder than her. Like I'm not in the mold. And Taylor Swift did the business part of music and she had some guidance. I hear she had a really good family, which I want to just point out is like huge to your kids being successful. I am still successful, even though I'm not Taylor Swift, but you know, it's I just want people to recognize the different energies of women and that there aren't only Taylor Swifts because that's how we get one woman at the top, and then that's fine because I don't want to be at the top, but all of the girls at the bottom have this standard that they're just sort of invisibly trying to meet. And if you don't check in with them and say, no, that's not what you would even look like at the top. So don't even fantasize about that, you know? Who are we? What do we want to represent? I wish every woman had the confidence of Taylor Swift. I wish we were all like Taylor Swift in a personality sense, where we had the resources and the confidence to feel that we were worth even that spot of staying there. She stays there. It's not just
yeah,
a flash in the pan. She's there, you know?
yeah. But
Um,
how sad that like she's one of the few that we can point out, as far as women, right? You know what I mean? Like how many men have had that spot, and it's just and again, and I totally hear your point, but like how sad that that's just like such one big example, and who gets shit because she is so visible. You know what I mean? From like, I mean, haters
right.
over bullshit.
Yeah, it's so tough because I don't know what I would do if I had that much money and that much pressure coming down on me, but I know I'd probably pay as much money as she has to get it away from me, like at a certain point. And my heart is with Taylor Swift every day. But I always get such a kick out of like two Pennsylvania girls, and she made it. That's just Scranton Girls Rock. It's really Pennsylvania girls, but you know.
Yes, 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 yes. Well, and I appreciate you answering that. And I totally get what you're saying because again, it shouldn't be like almost like a color form or like a block where you're putting in a puzzle. I'm going to be like her. So I totally get it. And the whole idea of the camp, let people be girls be themselves, whatever that looks like, as funky and weird and whatever. And if they're especially if they're having fun, would
Chapel,
you I'm sorry, go ahead.
sorry, that Chapel Rowan girl. Rowan? Chapel Rowan?
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna sound
Chapel
old.
Rowan.
Back in my day. Chapel Rowan? The Pink
Yes.
Pony Club? That's that's what I want to see more of.
I was waiting
So,
to see what you're going to say because I love that song, makes me happy. And I just saw a video of her playing at a park for 50 people only not that long ago. And I'm like, and then they flash to where she's at now. That song just makes me happy.
I'm like, I'm crying right now just even thinking of the chorus kicking in. But to be clear, Chaperone probably got to that part because Taylor Swift normalized powerful women in music. I mean, if that bridge wasn't there, would she have made it? So while some days I do want to sit Taylor Swift down and be like, but have we like proactively looked at this, like your tiny little army, and to see how far we could like, change things? Like you don't have to do it all yourself. You have like all of these women backing you up. I also have to admire just the natural grace that is given by her just being her best self. And I want, like, Taylor Swift is kind of like our Tom Brady, I would think. Like, she wakes up, she looks at her gameplay, how can I do it better?
Well, I mean, oh, now you got me thinking
Sorry, I'm
of
like, yeah,
pink.
you got me talking
Now,
about.
Pink Pony Club's in my head now, so I'm just like, that's my happy song these days. It's just really fun. So let's talk about the camp. So well, the fundraiser's coming up first, but I want to talk about the bigger like vision. This is like a 4 or 5 day kind of thing where the girls can come in, and then there'll be like a performance at the end. Talk to me a little bit about what you envision.
I'm a big fan of parents. I'm a big fan of great parents. So I would like the camp to, first of all, have early and late drop off. Like if you are a parent and you're trying to work with something, like I'm your gal, I'm in Pennsylvania just chilling. Like I live in Orlando, so I will give you some time that week. And then we are in the process of validating where we're going to have it. That's a bit of a process, I found out. I'm going for a school in the area.
Yeah, it's going to be in Northeast PA, close to Scranton, we'll say, but you're working it out. Yeah.
Yes. So we're working it out to have it at a school so we could utilize the cafeteria and the classrooms. Basically, the girls, the first day, are hanging out together. There are girls 7 to 17. In Orlando, there's non-binary girls. There are transgender women at this camp. So we are LGBTQIA plus. We're human friendly. There's so many codes that go with that. And that's what we established the first day, going into environments, talking about what is okay to us, how do we communicate that in healthy ways, how do we set it up so we don't have to feel in danger. And then the rest of the week is like getting your band together, getting into groups, coming up with names for your band, practicing your instruments, practicing together. Girls usually go home and practice their instruments just because they're having so much fun. And we told them to learn Pink Pony Club, instead of box 47th, whatever, a bad band geek there, but they're working on it at home. They know it's coming down to the end of the week. At the end of each day, I have in store for a band to come and play for the girls. Down here, they usually have any woman who maybe is like, oh, our fundraiser is at the VSpot. It's like a girls' night out at a bar. Maybe that's not your scene. You can play a show at this camp at like 3 p.m. in the afternoon to a bunch of little girls who would be super inspired by it. So they get that every day. Friday comes, pizza, ice cream. And then Saturday, and I am going to say this out loud because I need to manifest it. And Josh Balls knows I'm coming for him to meet him, and we're going to have a great time. We're trying to get the showcase at the Ritz. Hopefully, the girls will play on that stage and then get off and be like, look what I just did. I don't know how to explain that to anybody. It's just something that I share with what these girls are going to be experiencing of like, wow, I did that. And I think the Ritz, I haven't seen it since everything's been renovated, but I hear really good things
It's
and a lot
awesome.
of good people are surrounding it.
Yes. Yeah, it's very cool.
So if I can, just like if a 7-year-old were to play that, would they be like, it's
It's
right?
great. Yeah, it's cool. I would think they should be like, wow, hey, I haven't done stand up there. If I did stand up there, I'd be like, I just did stand up there. That's pretty cool. It's an awesome venue. It really is.
So getting a girl that young to feel confident on stage in front of an
Yes.
audience. She gets off and she's unstoppable. You don't have to worry about her.
Yeah. No, that would be incredible. That well, in any venue, but that is very cool. Let me ask you though. So you want it to be fun, but you are going to be having them practice and do songs, or I shouldn't say practice, but learning songs that they'll perform. So is this a camp where girls should come if they've already learned, or can girls be totally new to instruments?
You could be totally new. You can be an expert and help somebody else also learn an instrument better.
And you'll have I know obviously you're a musician, you'll have some other folks there helping out to teach.
Yes, the fundraiser where the women are playing because it takes a little finessing to get a bunch of women in a community to get close enough to be able to handle a summer camp. Like we're kind of building a team. So that's why I thought the fundraiser would be a cool thing. We get a bunch of women who want to play. We have a bunch of women who do sound. We have a bunch of women who just want to support, and we can promote the summer camp there and let them know that we're trying to build a community that just
Okay.
checks in with each other. And that way we'll get a wide variety of people. And a lot of the women that are going to be helping with music are they're ear trained. They picked it up and they got good just by practicing and being passionate. And I think that that is a great role model to have versus, some of my music teachers who are just like music theory, music theory. And it's not to say it's bad, but you gotta read the room.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
feel I'm also being a little biased towards music because I'm a musician, but we do have art workshops throughout the day. The girls will make up their band name. They'll get to do some screen printing. They'll get to make some merch, some buttons, and we'll sell that at the showcase for them. And usually down in Orlando, they give a little bit to the girls so they can feel like, oh man, we made, money doing this. And the rest of it goes towards the camp and the donations.
That's awesome. I mean, as you're talking, I'm seeing this is obviously more than it's like the business side, it's the marketing, it's the branding, it's the whole like they're learning, they can learn a lot from this. That's awesome. I mean, not to mention the confidence, the autonomy, independence. That's wonderful.
Mm.
Yeah, that's
That was
fantastic.
not to get too far into my gender spiracies, but and growing up with a younger brother, that was one thing, like as a little girl that drove me nuts. Man, they would ask to show him things he was just like not interested in. They would push him to do like so much, and I'm like, let me do it, let me do it, let me do it. And so now I just want to do it all. I think that's where a lot of women are right now. We're like, well, yeah, and there was always seemed to be like some mentorship that guys had that I wanted in on so bad. That's why I didn't know I was a woman because I was like, how about me? Like, make me that guy. Like, I'll climb that corporate ladder. I'll do, yeah, yeah. Tell me your secrets. Like, and they're like, what do we do with you? Why are you asking for this stuff? And it became kind of clear to me that us as women, aside from domestic duties, not much of a conquer the world mentorship going on. And when I do see it, I feel like we just kind of robbed the guy's plan. Like that's where you get like your ladies in the suit coats and they're like walking around in the suits, like trying to compete with men. And I'm like, well, I don't think we're better at being men than men. Like, but I think that when it comes to business, it probably doesn't look the same way for a woman to be successful as it does
Yeah.
a man. And so now I see the value. When the women get together, they could be like, yes, what you're doing is super cool. So then when they're out in the world and maybe there's not a lot of women around, they could have those words in their head. You don't
Yeah.
have to have an awesome mom to have awesome dialogue in your head. And honestly, it's harder to learn that you have that in your head than to develop it. So, I just hope everybody has, regardless of your situation, a kind voice in your head. And I hope that this camp can help a younger generation start out a little bit earlier with that messaging. And I think art and music is the perfect way to do it. I think we're in a great time to do it. I think people need to express some stuff.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, absolutely. And art has always been a way to do it, an outlet for that. And even if they don't have, maybe their mom isn't as cool as your mom, they can meet, hopefully they do, but they can also meet people like you and other local women who will also help put that positive voice in their heads, hopefully. Yeah.
Yes, that's what I would love to contribute to the world for my time here.
So let's talk about the fundraiser.
It is March 14th on Friday at the VSpot. It's going to start around 6 p.m. I had Tatiana Tell put together these women. She is a big musician in the area. And before I left, she was just blowing up. And I remember watching her like, oh man, go girl, like get it, get it, get it. But I was so tired, like I just had to go. So and when I connected with her, that was really cool. I think she's happy that I did. I know she's happy we're doing this because she's been so helpful, got so many resources, the VSpot, and I just wanted to give her a solid shout out, like Tatiana Tell. And there are so many women. I don't want to miss any. There's so many willing to help, and I'm going to try and promote them all through the Instagram and try and get us a system where we are all getting the same amount of praise, however we need for what we want to be praised for. You know, like stereotypical moments would lead you as a woman to have a lot of compliments on your appearance, compliments on your agreeableness, and then you're like, well, hey, what do you think of my song? And they're like, well, I don't want to hurt her feelings. And you're like, I mean, you just told me the past 4 months that I looked like crap when I left the house. You don't seem to care then. But this is my own personal journey in my alternative rock land that I'm referring to. So I'm not, I'm okay, everybody. But just to say, like I've looked for feedback before on different things than I'm receiving feedback, and I know I'm not asking for that.
Yeah.
Like on your comedy, how do you feel about like do people give you feedback? You feel it's authentic? You feel like if something sucked, would somebody tell you?
Um, my closest friends, well, like I have one or two. My one male friend, and not that it matters that he's gay, but there's that, and different energy. But he's the one that I'll text about. I'm thinking of trying a new joke, and I'll give him the different punchlines and options.
Yeah.
And I ask, but of course, my own instinct is what I go with.
Yeah.
Because recently I was doing one about oh, the world is all about renaming, so I'm renaming some mountains too. And I'm like, the girls are, Thelma and Louise because they've already jumped the cliff. They're hanging around, whatever. And he's like, I love that punchline, but I don't know that everyone's really going to get that. And then I had another option and I went with my option. And it actually, the show your mom was at, it actually went pretty well. So, but as far as no one really, I don't ask for it. Like when I'm trying jokes, I'll ask his opinion and other people's, but like no one really, I mean, they might think I suck or whatever, but no one really says. But what I do get, which just makes me eye roll, is like people who want to give me jokes, which I'm just like, no, that's awesome. If that was my life and I didn't want to write my own stuff, that would be great. But, like, oh my God, I have the funniest story for you. Or they'll say something that apparently they think is funny and they'll be like, you could put that in your act. And I'm like, I'm good.
Right? You know what you should do? You know what you should do? And it's like your feedback is not even based off of anything that I'm capable of doing. Like I really feel like you're just talking, and that's the empty feedback. Like, oh, they're saying this is what you should do, but it's also like it doesn't matter if that's not, you're right, it's not your life. So delivering it would feel inauthentic and it might be
Yeah.
funny to them because, we know.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I kind of got us off track of the fundraiser because I did want to point out the women who are performing in it.
Oh, please. Yes.
I'm going to put another poster up soon. 8 p.m. we have Tara McNish playing. 9 p.m. we're going to have Ivy, and at 10 p.m. we're going to have L. Tyrannus. I hope I said that correctly. If not, think about saying it that way because it sounds really badass. Uh, there's Pucker Up, which I think a lot of people have been telling me is a very popular band around the area. I'm excited to meet them at 11 p.m. And Sweet Nest with Amanda Rogan and Madison with a K at the end. I forget her last name. But just some of the women that are involved in the show of the evening for anybody who's like, yeah, okay, great. Great mission, great life, but like who's playing?
Yeah. Well, it sounds great and I want to go, but I will tell you, unfortunately, like the 11 o'clock, like, yeah, I'll be out of there by then because I go to bed by then. But yeah, I do want to see be there to support it. This is awesome. So can people buy tickets in advance or is this just at the door or how's that going?
It'll just be at the door. We are, again, with all the pieces moving to a nonprofit that we didn't think about. Um, we're just going to, I'm going to come in that week before the show and solidify some stuff, and we'll be ready by the time the fundraiser hits.
That's awesome. Okay. And I'll put that in the show notes. And obviously, folks who are listening, please check out Scranton Girls Rock on Instagram and Facebook. So as there are updates and, as Natalie posts things, you can check them out and, figure all that out. Let me ask you, I know recently when we spoke, you were working on getting up the application. So when will those be up for the summer camp itself? If someone's like, oh, my daughter would love to go to this, when can they start looking for that so they can actually sign up?
And all I have to do is publish that link.
Oh, cool.
More. Let's say by the time they're listening to it now, go look for the link. It's there.
Okay, very cool. Yeah, and just so
Oh,
that
in
and
our,
any
I'm sorry, in our Instagram, I'll have it in the bio,
okay.
in the link tree. So in the Instagram bio, I have a link tree link for Scranton Girls Rock. That's where I'm going to be putting everything, just so we're in a habit of going to look for that. I also have the event listed in there as well. So
Oh, great. So really, honestly, folks listening, go to Instagram and check out the link tree in the bio. That's the best thing, which is great. And I mean, maybe it's a little early, maybe, but I mean, I know parents like to plan. So maybe it's not too early, especially, in fact, I know it's not because I was just talking to someone the other day who's a mom and her son is in so many different things. I forget what it was that he might not make their family vacation. And she's like, well, if he'd rather do that, that's up to him. So yeah, it's not too soon, I guess, for parents to start planning these types of things.
and I'd like to also say that I am not a parent myself and have recognized what that means over the years of being a counselor and stuff and how much extra consideration and knowledge and experience parents have to life versus me. And I just want all the parents to consider lending their talents to this camp knowing that, I have the education and I have the enthusiasm, the passion. You want your kid to be around me. I promise you that. But I am looking for some, organizational talents that I'm just really going to need some help. And if anybody's, bored that week in summer, then uh, just hit me up.
And we did not say the dates. I don't remember. So what is the span of dates for the summer camp?
The summer camp will be July 14th to July 18th at the facility that we locked down for the camp. And then again, the 19th will be that showcase. And we are in communications with the Ritz to solidifying that.
Maybe we could have like an outpour or at least a manifestation, everyone listening, that we want it to be at the Ritz. So let's put that out there, everybody. Here we go. It's out there. Yes, Josh will get the energy. I know he will. It's coming his way. Great. So folks who do have time and maybe you think, oh well, I'm not musical. Well, as Natalie just said, maybe you're just a bossy mom and you can really keep people in line or something like that. Bossy, I'm no, not bossy, just organizational. That's it. No, but seriously, as parents, what it takes to put these things together, whether it's sports camps or whatever. It takes much more than one or two volunteers. So obviously, if you do have the time, maybe you're on vacation, maybe you have a flexible work schedule, maybe you can just help out. Anything that you want to mention before we wrap up? And I will definitely put information in the show notes about all this great stuff coming up.
I think I just want to try and repeat again the fundraiser that's coming up, which is I have all the names now. So March 14th at 6 p.m., the doors are going to open. We're going to be chilling. We're going to be eating some food, getting to know each other. I have some games. 7 p.m., it's called, her name is Sherry, and she's in a duo named Wild Card. And that will be at 7 p.m. And then following the rest of our acts, Tarek McNish, Ivy, Pucker Up, and Sweetness. I feel I'm missing one there. Oh my gosh, whatever. I'm never gonna get it, Janine. I'm not a radio
We're
broadcaster.
gonna send them to Instagram and not worry about
Go to
it.
Instagram, and I need broadcast girls, clearly. If you hear me struggling, I
No
know they're out there.
worries.
Who's that? Who's that girl on Rock 107 that I see popping up? She's a breath of fresh air.
I don't
Um,
know who that is.
I'm manifesting her too. She's gonna
Okay, we'll manifest her.
I have
Uh,
to throw out I wrote an Instagram message to Taylor Swift. I admire Taylor Swift. Taylor Swift can exist. I don't like billionaires, but I think she has maybe if anybody has a plan as a billionaire that might be good, it might be her. So I'll
yeah.
give her that much. But
All
yeah,
right. Props,
in
props for
case
that.
Taylor sees this, like, 'cause I don't want it's all jealousy, Taylor. Like, can you blame me? You can't.
No, no.
No.
Let me ask you, are we going to hear you play at the benefit? Or
I
I shouldn't
will.
even say play. I don't even really know. We didn't talk about, I assume you have guitars behind you, so I assume you play guitar.
Yeah, I wanted to, well, I play the bass. These are my boyfriend's guitars. They just look cool in our room, so we hung them there. I'm a bass player. I do want to play, and I did leave a little space at the end where we were supposed to have a DJ, but Matt Kester is going to be there helping us with sound, along with my friend Michelle Sabalchik from mixingmusiclive.com. And just having them there and knowing that we could kind of make impromptu things happen. I'm gonna try and get maybe Matt on the drums a little bit, but no pressure. And
Okay.
that's what I want more of a fun environment, really, because growing up, it was very, very sports like, very, this is the game, take it seriously, don't mess up, do your practice. And when I started playing with women, we had our first show, and I was like chill up until that first show. And then all of a sudden, I'm just like, don't mess up. Where's your you better be tuned or you're tuning. Oh, like, and it like this intensity took over, and they're like, what are you doing? Like, who are you? And I'm like, oh, well, you have to take this seriously. And they're like, no, you literally don't. Like, literally music. I was like, oh, cool. So now I work on that, knowing how many women have that kind of like programmed into them. I really try and take the space to be like, no, you've been responsible since you were 4 years old. Try and be irresponsible for a second in this safe circle. And
Yeah.
let's
Yeah.
have
And
fun with
just
it. Mess
have,
up and then mess up again. And then smile because you messed up. Do what you want. You're not going to kill anybody.
great advice. We don't hear that enough, that message, truthfully. Messing up is fun. It's good.
Last message. The entire industry was technically made for men. We need to remember that. The equipment was made for men. So if you are a woman, unless you're like the largest woman alive, bigger than any muscly man ever, you cannot break equipment. Like, they're all like, I don't want to touch this fader. Like, do you know the meat slabs that were just like you're like, oh, I don't know. So just getting, but as soon as they touch things, they're like, oh yeah, okay, cool. But I think that's one thing we have to realize, like, this equipment was made to last.
Hmm.
Outdoor festivals, it was made for it. Like, we don't want to smash it on the ground, but what you're worried about is not a thing.
Well, and that's another point too that I'm sure you obviously they bring up in the camp too, like getting girls comfortable with equipment and materials that they shouldn't be afraid of.
So many good psychological things. And I think that's so true because my mom, one last shout out to mom, signed me up for karate. I am a black belt.
Whoa.
Yes.
Respect.
Well, I mean, now I can't fight people on a whim, though. I can't just walk around and beat people up because I'm a lethal weapon.
Oh
But,
man.
you take the sacrifice because having that knowledge of how to be like close to a person, like, and I'll give my brother credit for this too. There were many wrestling matches that made me more comfortable with the human body, like because when people get close and you haven't been in that close proximity, that's why we freeze. So I always encourage girls, like definitely some type of close contact sport would probably benefit. And, you know, we're not there yet, but we got the band going, and that's band band relationships. The guys know what I'm talking about. Like you never forget your first band. There's just moments. There's just like there's trauma, there's good times that like you'll never laugh like that again. And bands are cool. And that's all I'm here to say. I don't care if you do it with girls, with guys. Just gotta be in a band. And when it's based off of like art communicating and there's no words involved, it's like a lot easier. Like you could drop the egos, you could really make anything happen. There's no legislation on the arts.
As we wrap up then, so folks who are listening, if you whether or not you do have a daughter or a niece or a granddaughter or whatever, or maybe you just want to help out, just keep in mind Scranton Girls Rock and March 14th, the fundraiser at the VSpot in Scranton coming up, and then the camp July 14th, which is going to be awesome. And I cannot wait to meet you in person. I'm looking forward to going out to the fundraiser. I won't be there for the last band or two because of my bedtime, but I'm excited to get out there and support this too. I'm so happy that your mom came up to me after the show and we got to meet. This is awesome. So thank you so much for your time.
Thank you as well. I believe that's like my first podcast. So
You should never forget me then. I'm your first podcast.
actually, I'm gonna just be exclusive to you. I'm gonna in my
Ooh, all
podcast.
right.
I'm only interviewed by the funny wine girl.
All right. I like it. I'm,
You're
I'm
very
trying to.
comfortable interview process. I
Oh,
like
well,
that.
thank you.
Most people like I've been interviewed before, just no podcast, and they usually send all these questions, and I'm like, I don't want to think about it that much before I go into it, because then you're gonna get my brain vomit, like my word. Blah, blah, blah. But what you do, I loved how you were just like, let's take it back a second. You're really like, let me break that down for, me. I'm like, oh, that's such a nice way to say I'm talking like a squirrel.
No, 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 no,
But
no.
still, like that's part of being a good podcast host, I think, because to be able to lead an interview like that, I don't know, you have a lot of talent. You're
Well,
more than
thank you.
just a funny face, or wait, no, a funny voice. You're
Funny. Yeah, I do have a funny face.
you're more than just a comedy girl.
Well, thank you. Thank you. My gosh, I could let you talk about how great I am for hours, but I'll stop it there. No, I will just say to that only like everyone's got to do their own thing, their own style. But for me, I mean, my background is in journalism, but I don't like it to be an interview. I like it to be a conversation. And quite frankly, I always tell my guests, I don't like they're like they want to prepare. I will say this, and this is no shade to anybody, but the best conversations, which are most of them, 95% of the time, are when it's natural. Like, thank you again, Natalie. Folks who are listening, please check out Scranton Girls Rock on Instagram and on Facebook, and check out the information I'll have in the show notes. And we're going to keep on rolling through March. I've got the CEO of Maternal and Family Health coming up, and I am so excited for that conversation because we're talking about important stuff for women to get the services they need. Contraception, lactation services, all kinds of good things that women need and they're still able to provide in Scranton and throughout the region. Always good stuff here. And if you'd like to be a supporter of this podcast and you want to be a sponsor, reach out to me anytime and see what your budget's like. But remember, even if you don't have the cash means, you can support by sharing this podcast. Share it with a friend, foe, or anyone you know. Share it like it's a political meme because it's even better, believe it or not. Yeah, so that's about it for me. As I say every week, I appreciate you from the bottom of my heart and the bottom of my wine glass.